Hey there, Vermont, and hey there, America. So, hey, we got a whole new number one category for Vermont in the Vermont Business Magazine, or VermontBiz.com. You can go right here to that website right there. Vermont named number one least friendly state for retirees. Deep blue. Several of these states that just do not like seniors. And I thought we should discuss a little bit about why Vermont is sitting dead last, number 50 GDP, and it's in the top tier of most tax states in the country because we have a lopsided Democrat / progressive socialist supermajority in the state of Vermont that just seems to be on a mad dash to destroy what used to be a very beautiful, hard-working state in the country that used to lead several categories when it came to business production. It used to be one of the top-tiered education states in the country. That's in a complete chaos and utter mess right now, going through its consolidation phase of several years of very bad decisions. Economically, extremely stagnant, claiming that there's low unemployment, which there may be, but when you've got people that are working 2 or 3 jobs just to exist in the state of Vermont, and you've got Bernie Sanders out there pitching his version of socialism, whether it's Democrat socialism, progressive socialism. This is a complete test case of pure and utter failure to destroy a beautiful little state that once led in several categories, or at least economically, it was in the high 40s. I think we were sitting around 40, 41, 42 not too long ago, about a decade and a half or so. But when you've got a lopsided supermajority that's just pushing this Democrat socialism and this progressive socialism, or jumping on this bandwagon of Bernie Sanders' version of socialism, you got the trifecta of deflecta between Leahy, Sanders, and Welch that are not working in the best interest of the state of Vermont. They have specifically funneled millions of dollars to cherry pick certain little minions down in Montpelier to keep this far left agenda that has left Vermont number 50, dead last GDP, and now number 1 in one tax category, or let's just say age demographic, I guess. It's still in the top tier of most tax states in several other age categories. It is not a good state when it comes to creating good paying jobs with benefits, because let's face it, I don't know. No, I do know. I mean, it's not that hard to figure out. You can't consistently tax an aging population that is getting ready to retire, head off into their senior years. You've got a middle tier that's basically devastated because the tax code is so complex, it's rigged for failure, and you've got this never-ending far-left bandwagon of 7 CEOs who've, let's face it, they're all making good money if they're able to turn the renewable energy companies that they're starting up here in the state of Vermont into successful business models, which was all funded by taxpayers, by the way. And Bill Cohen, of Ben & Jerry's fame. He started Ben & Jerry's out of an old gas station up in Burlington. And now he is just pushing, he is on this climate change apocalypse. He is out to destroy anybody that wants to work hard or build a dream other than the dream that he had of making ice cream. That's got to change. And I can't believe in such a short period of time the state of Vermont has gone or dropped dead last in so many categories so fast because of some seriously groupthink models that have they're in the process of completely destroying the state of Vermont. And you, as much as Democrat and progressive socialists love to deflect blame, they've got issues up in Burlington that still date back to Bernie Sanders when he was the first socialist mayor. Meanwhile, he's going around convincing our kids we've got a climate change apocalypse. That is a complete farce. And I guess I'm sick and tired of listening to it, to be quite honest with you, because there's some outstanding technologies. Apologize for that. There's some outstanding technologies that are renewable sources, that Renewology by Priyanka Bakaya. Outstanding. Montpelier's going to ban plastics, plastic bags, plastic straws. They're jumping on a bandwagon from the West Coast, which, let's face it, we have a lot of followers here in Vermont. And when you've got individuals that just are lazy, they won't read, let alone do a little bit of research, it frustrates you because you're sitting there like, wow, it's not that complicated. We're in the top tier most tax states. We're in the rock bottom 50 VTGDP. We're claiming we have low unemployment when you've got people that are busting their butts just working 2 and 3 jobs just to exist in the state of Vermont. It is overtaxed. It is overregulated. It is a rigged tax code for failure along with that regulation. It is a never-ending thick mound of paperwork. And that is one of the most bureaucratic, slow-moving, unable to make a command decision state. Now, it's not that hard. 100% renewable is it's an energy source, okay? But it is not sustainable without some kind of a hydro or a stable hydroelectric source or a nuclear source to stabilize the grid. Meanwhile, you got a bunch of 60s folks that are all into conspiracy theories. They're anti-nuke anything because that's what they were just brought up in fear, okay? And fear is what is destroying the state of Vermont. You got this far left agenda. They have power, they have control now. They're the ones getting greased by the public sector to secure 7 CEOs, Bill Cohen's vision of a utopian disaster? That doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. Listen, Bill Cohen's a multimillionaire now. He sold out to Unilever. He can be a philanthropist all he wants. And obviously he has bought off several of the Vermont House, the Vermont Senate, and it's just getting old listening to that one-sided approach without any common sense. That has to change. Vermont leads in several of the worst negative categories when it comes to the alcoholism, the long-term drug effects on the human brain. Vermont is in the top tier. It always has been. I mean, let's face it, if you were everybody in their youth, Vermont generates a lot of power drinkers out there. And then when you've got power drinkers that are mixing their drinking habits along with their drug addictions or their drug habits, it's not a very good model. And what I'm a little sick and tired of listening to is the constant deflection towards the law-abiding when there's entrenched evidence in all 14 counties of the devastation that alcoholism, long-term drug effects on the human brain have devastated several communities across the state of Vermont. So, how do we solve it? Vermont is right now, with this formula, if it keeps going the way it's going, it will be completely bankrupt. It will be a defunct state in not very much time. It's not too hard to figure out when you're number one in the most taxed category. You're alienating seniors that may want to retire to actually stay in the state of Vermont, or they're gonna become, snowbirds, which I think they've earned that, right? I mean, listen, it gets pretty cold up here, and there's a lot of ice. I don't know about any of you, but I'd like my parents not to have to slip and take a bad fall. Many of them are grandparents. We'd like to have them down south so we could at least go visit them from time to time. When we need to get out of this climate change up here, it's not too hard to figure out. Now, I realize my sarcasm at times has rubbed a few people wrong, but that's because I'm sick and tired of complete and utter alienation, discrimination, and this just tossing out names when you're offering really good solutions just because they were so lazy they never took the time to do some of the research. That's just that's very frustrating. On top of that, makes no sense whatsoever. Listen, if you're lazy and you don't want to work, or you have no ambition to start a business model, or you have, listen, whatever it is, if you just want to work, that's fine. But stop trying to attack people that have really good solutions, that are offering some common sense approaches that can take Vermont out of this abyss of utter indebtedness for stupid one-sided decisions, a complete groupthink. Just because they're empowered, they get to manipulate and destroy the state that we all love? I don't think so. It's time to wake up. And it's also time to listen to a few other very talented individuals across the state of Vermont. The No Carbon Tax group has started generating a lot of attention in several other counties across the state of Vermont. I realize there's certain groups that do not want to know anything about the solutions because we're not wealthy enough to grease the machine quite yet. However, they're, I don't know, having worked on some of the, or with some of the most elite teams in the military, and having the honor to design the Roth IRA evaluator for Fidelity Investments, and I can't take all credit for that. It was a team effort. But we broke a company record that generated over $200 billion in under a year. Fidelity is still in the top 5 investment banking communities. It was a great company. I miss Fidelity, I'm not going to lie. I enjoyed working with some really talented people that promoted leading edge technology, that had the funding to let some really good software and network engineers kind of dive in and design some successful money management tools that now the Democrats are so in fear of because they've grown several of that older generation's retirements into sustainable. They're going to be able to enjoy their retirement years. And that's not because of taxation. And listen, I am not a Democrat socialist. I'm not a progressive socialist. And I am going to be dead set honest with you. I cannot stand socialism. I smelt it. I saw how they treat their people overseas. There are gulags in China that are just there to brainwash individuals until they start thinking their way. Hey there, Dan Alexander. How you doing, brother? North Korea did plenty of research and work on that country. And as much as I got to admit, I used to have a lot of, I can't believe the American press has turned into a never-ending winding machine for a far-left, one of the most corrupt political figures they could have ever picked to run in 2016. And in my view, I mean, I would have never endorsed her, let alone just because she's a woman, she deserves to be the first female president of the United States when she's one of the most corrupt in present U.S. history, dating all the way back to Nixon. That's not a good resume. I'm sorry. It's just, as much as women want to lead, which I think, listen, there's some outstanding female leaders out there. And they have done some remarkable things. Hillary Clinton was never one of them. Ever. And I realize that's gonna kick up a whatever storm, but I'm sorry. That was just pure corruption. And I don't like Democrat socialist programs. They consistently generate failure. I don't like progressive socialist programs because that's all they do is generate another taxpayer bailout Ponzi scheme, just like what happened with the EB-5 scandal. You've got people purposely trying to attract funding from the wealthy Chinese. If they give $500,000, you're going to give them a work visa so they can come over to the state of Vermont. How is that in the best interest of Vermonters? I mean, basically, if you bribe and grease the machine, we're going to give you a work visa. You can come over and stay in our state and work in Vermont. I mean, come on. This pay-for-play scheme is old. It is corrupt, and I don't know. It's destroyed the integrity of the FBI and the Justice Department down in D.C., and Vermont is no example to follow when it comes to ethics or their legal system here. Definitely not. It is. I mean, when you're purposely destroying families and you're claiming that you're right there for equal rights, and yet you are destroying any successful person who had a dream to build something back in their home state after doing a lot of the stuff that we've pulled off to keep this state and this country free. And then we've got a representative down there that calls the American flag a banner. I'm going to give you an example of what a banner is. Black Lives Matter, that's a banner. That is not a flag of respect. It was built off of a foundation of lies. Now, do I sound like a white supremacist? No, I'm not. I've served with some outstanding men and women from every walk of life, whether they were black, brown, Filipino, Asian, you name it. Has nothing to do, and that's the other thing I'm sick and tired of listening to. Just because you are white, you're an automatic racist. Wow. That comes from a brainchild there, doesn't it? Someone who, knows nothing about their history in this country, let alone the number of individuals that sacrificed their lives in order to keep this country free from every walk of life. Every walk. Every nationality just about has been represented in one way, shape, or form. Every religion. And even the folks that are atheist and agnostic out there who consistently hate anybody that has faith. So, I've got some new links on the Green Mountain Republicans the history of Vermont politics. The No Carbon Tax Vermont group has a new presentation coming up May 26, 2019, 9 a.m. to noon. Actually had a very nice conversation with Bob Frenier. You may know him. The Vermont, or Real News Vermont on Facebook. He's transitioning his model into a social media communication, news reporting process, which he dives right into a lot of the legislation down in Montpelier. Some very good open debate, letting Vermonters know what's coming down the pipeline. And listen, I may be a little semi-sarcastic, but I do want to see Vermont come out of this abyss. It's number 50, dead last. And you can keep blowing smoke up your delusional little whatever, but when you're number 50, dead last, and number 1 in the most taxed categories, it's one of the quickest, worst formulas to kill a state. And we are in that abyss right here, right now. And listening to the far left agenda, who's basically out panhandling for anybody, basically. I mean, they are willing to pitch a 100% renewable only when they already know it fails, just so they can get that money that those 7 CEOs are greasing the system. And they've got 3 representatives that used to work in renewable energy sources. And boy, they're right there beating that drum. Not quite ethical on that, as far as I'm concerned there. But listen, if that's what it comes down to, playing that game, well, then I guess I've got to give some friends a call down in Boston, and I certainly have to start networking with many individuals that are very successful, that have designed industries, leading edge industries that have actually changed or disrupted the system or the industry that they were in. And Vermont is in need of innovation right now. It is in need of a lower tax code. It is in complete need of funding small startups that can generate long-term solutions, creating good-paying jobs for the folks that want to stay here and live in our beautiful little state of Vermont without ripping up 200 miles of ridgeline and installing industrial wind turbines and polluting 30,000 acres of our fields with heavy metal solar panels. Now, does that sound like I'm anti-solar? No. I just want some common sense. There's some outstanding startups in other states. They received funding, which is taxpayer money, in order to get their business models up and profitable. And that Renewage company that takes plastic and can turn it into diesel fuel, there needs to be one right here in Vermont. Especially with the momos that are down in Montpelier right now that are not even listening to anybody with common sense. There's some outstanding disruptors. And Vermont has been dragging its feet for decades. And I realize it's a poor state. And I realize it has to utilize the nonprofit grant process. But it's when all you're trying to do is maintain a certain number of people to stay in poverty so that you can keep the grants going and the money going, when you're only creating a very small number of jobs, that's almost criminal in my view, because you're just maintaining people to stay poor. Keep their self-esteem low. Don't encourage them to try to seek a path in life that could launch them into a whole new career path or something that they've always dreamed about to create a successful business model. You want to talk about a complete mindset that is messed up. That's Montpelier right now. You are number 50, dead last. Dead last. Worst GDP. It only took 2 decades to destroy a great little state that used to have at least options. And when you have only the Queen City greasing the machine down in Montpelier, you've got 13 other counties. There's so much opportunity to bring Vermont into the 21st century. And actually, many of these renewable energy sources can be sustainable, can actually be profitable, but it's not going to ever, ever, ever run 100% renewable energy, or let's just say 100% of the present renewable energy, because I have a little surprise coming your way on one of our next presentations. Actually, I have several surprises, but I'm going to start doing it just like the Democrat/progressive socialist. I'm going to drip, drip, drip it until I finally get enough people to wake up and realize that there's a lot of opportunity being missed by listening to a far-left climate change apocalypse group down in Montpelier. All right, that's my rant for today. Whole new websites are coming. Got a May 26th, 2019, 9 a.m. to noon. It's the No Carbon Tax Vermont group. We're on Facebook. You can join the group. It's a nonpartisan group. It's mostly discussing options on how we can bring Vermont from the abyss that it's been driven to by a far-left Democrat socialist and progressive socialist big government model back to a free market system across all 14 counties that can actually generate really good paying jobs with benefits. And not this Medicare for all scam that Bernie Sanders is pitching, because that's nationalizing a private process. And listen, I've had insurance agents that I don't really like that much either, because it was all about the sale, and once they generated the sale, they didn't give a care about you. Start going with better insurance agents. Start hiring better people that actually do their work and actually support their customers. Good customer service can go a long, long way. That being said, as much as I dislike some of those individuals, they are like used car salesmen out there. And listen, I have nothing against used car salesmen. I mean, I'm picking on you a little bit just because, I don't know, I guess it is an old stereotype, but whatever. So, I got to have a little bit of fun doing this stuff. I mean, man, if you can't have a little bit of fun while you're working, then what's the point? Got a whole new list of statistics out there. The S-169 public hearing was very informative. There's a bunch of statistics about suicide out there. I'm a little sick and tired of the stigma that individuals are just trying to put on certain groups. Hi there, Claire Poland Millette. How are you? And then I would like you to please stay engaged, because we have some really good ideas on the Green Mountain Republicans, the Facebook social media feeds. We're on Instagram. The website is up. I'm going to be taking that down. I'm transferring it over to a completely new platform, as well as my other side as well, the software and network engineering side. I've got a whole new, let's just say a whole new informative website coming, in order, if there was individuals that wanted to get into software engineering, where they could practice coding. Whether you're a network engineer that wants to get into installing communication networks or the backbone of the internet, as well as a whole list of successful platforms that aren't out to rip you off to start up an online business model. Or, and I'm not saying if you presently have a business model in the state of Vermont, you can now add that channel and start selling locally, nationally, and even internationally some pretty outstanding products that are manufactured here in the state of Vermont. That being said, have a great day, have a great weekend. I actually have another broadcast on a specific subject that I'm going to be posting up there. Please stay engaged. April 9th is another vote for the Berrytown forced merger. That's Tuesday, April 9. For any folks that are very concerned about that, which they should be, April 9th, another vote, Berrytown. It's about the forced merger stuff, which they're starting to realize is not going over too well across several sections of the state, because their matching of deep deficit spots with the folks that have good money management isn't going over too well. So that being said, April 9th, big vote. What else is this month? Oh, well, I'm going to save that announcement for the other broadcast. But I got to go check my calendar. Got some big stuff coming up this month as well as next month. And my God, please, please, we need spring. They're threatening us with some more rain and snow over the weekend. Kind of hoping that that good old jet stream may take it somewhere else. But we could use some sun to dry off the mud bogging Class 4 dirt roads. And I don't know, drive safe out there. We'll talk to you soon. Have a great day.